Ross, thank you for joining me. Before we start, actually, this podcast is brought to you by The Yard. That's where we are today. We're podcasting from a pod at The Yard. If you're looking for a gym or a trainer in Mill Valley or Pack Heights, I guess all of SF Bay Area, right?
Bay Area.
Might be the
We'll
place.
help you out.
Might be the place. But yeah, I'm sat here with Ross Dempsey. Do you want to tell the people what you do?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Tyler. It's really good to be on your podcast. And I'm a personal trainer based in San Francisco at the Yard in Pack Heights. And I co-lead a run club, Progression Run Club. And that's me.
And you have a podcast.
Oh, I've also got a podcast.
Don't forget.
Lest we forget the podcast. Yes, which I release on a monthly basis. And yeah, super excited about that too.
And where would people find you if they're looking for you online?
Progression Health Coaching is my website. Progression Health on Instagram. And yeah, that is it.
Okay, cool. How do we know each other?
We know each other through a friend
Mhm.
and or a coworker, Cherie.
Shout out to Cherie.
Shout out to Cherie. I don't know where she is, but I'm sure
She's in SoCal. She's doing well.
She's doing good work. She's a hard worker. And I was looking for a coach in I think it was 17 or 2018. Basically, I was like, my fitness training could be better. I saw Cherie was really dialed in, and I was like, right, I gotta get on that level or somewhere approximating that. And that's exactly what I got. And yeah, it's been great ever since.
And I think we've worked together for probably a total of not continuously since we met, but like a total of what do you think? Like 3 years, maybe?
Really close to 3, if not more. Yeah.
And for some of that time, I was very much focused on like just strength in the context of powerlifting, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It has been really cool because I've gotten to see you build your business as well. Because when we met, you hadn't started the business yet, I don't think, right?
It was kind of a mix between being independent and being sort of based in other gyms. So yeah, it was not fully independent at the time.
So one question that I know will come is, why would somebody like you are, I'll say this because I know you won't, quite a prolific personal trainer and coach. Why would you then hire a coach yourself? Because you have me in your corner for strength stuff, nutrition, and you also have a run coach, right?
Yeah. It's a great question. So I think like my kind of like North Star of what makes a great coach.
Great word.
North Star, exactly. The brand is a coach who has like the educational background plus the in the trenches experience of whatever craft they work on. So for me, that is, I have like, my own certifications or college degree, plus like I run and I lift to the highest possible level I can do. And I try to do the two of those at the same time. And
terrible idea.
Yeah, it's very difficult, but also very rewarding. And that's my North Star.
Yeah. And actually that is maybe an important thing to throw in there, because I think that there are many good personal trainers. Something that does kind of separate you, I believe, is credentials. You have your master's, yeah?
Yeah, I have a master's in exercise physiology and my bachelor's in exercise and health studies. So yeah, very exercise focused. And that's something I really like live by, is exercise is medicine, basically.
And how long have you been training and coaching for?
I think like professionally as my career, 8 years. And then there was 2 years before that. So about,
decade.
About 10 years.
Okay. Talk me through your own background in, I guess, sports and fitness.
Yeah. So I came from like a sporting family, and I grew up, back in Ireland, where basically there was like a tennis club
You're
right
Irish.
Across. Yeah.
I wouldn't
Surprise. Yeah. If the accent didn't give it away, now you know. Yeah. So basically I'm from a sporting family, and it was always, going to be, whether I wanted to play sports or not, it was like, you're going to play sports and be gently sort of like encouraged to do it, at whatever level you want to play it at. And I had a tennis club right across the street from where I grew up. Very luckily, because I know a lot of people, they just don't get that encouragement to play sports, and then they, have to come to it later on in life. But basically, played like tennis, squash, badminton, and badminton became the main sport I played for about 10
Oh, no shit.
years. Yeah.
That's a very interesting sport.
Yeah, it is. It's very like dynamic. There's a lot of mobility required. It's very like
Yeah.
strategic, very social as well. Even though there's singles, there's also doubles mixed. And yeah, it was a great sport, or is a great sport.
I remember the first time I saw like serious badminton was like it might have been like ESPN2 or something,
Mhm.
and I was just like I was flabbergasted
Mhm.
at the way these people move, because I always thought of badminton. I think a lot of like lay people probably think of badminton as just like a thing you do for fun,
Yeah.
and that like you don't even consider that there are people playing it at like a very different level, right?
Yeah.
So that was your thing then, badminton.
Yeah. I think like the perception of badminton is like, you know, for example, some people think like you can play it outside and like, you know, it's like slow paced and the shuttle
Can you
drops a
play it
lot or whatever.
outside? Wouldn't it be tough with wind and stuff?
Yeah, for some reason, I just feel like people just play it anywhere, like especially when I
Fair,
came
yeah,
out
yeah.
here. But
In the parking lot and stuff.
yeah, you know, there was a really good system, you know, back in the tennis club back in Galway where I'm from, and it was just like very much like we're playing competitively, we're training, you know, maybe up to 6 times a week if that's your
Wow.
desire.
Yeah.
If you're playing a tournament, you're playing, you know, like 4, 5 games in a day.
In a day.
Yeah,
How long's
it's
a
like
game?
I want to say about an hour roughly. I'm not sure. I can't really
Damn,
remember.
okay.
But like, I just remember like
It's a
being
long day.
Yeah, I just remember being exhausted, like leaving it all out there, and like you would just have to rest and not really know what you're doing in terms of like nutrition, all that kind of stuff, and then just go again and go again.
Wow.
And it was really like it was very exciting. You didn't have time to think. You were just I'm in it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good for like a young person growing up who like, you know, has a ton of energy and doesn't know where to put it.
Did you play like through like I guess what, high school, college, like that age, or
So I'm not sure was it me or, you know, it's a combination probably of like my own kind of desire to play badminton and then like kind of other things like, you know, sort of as you're growing up. But basically it started to taper off. And I think that was like a general trend among the kids my age. But I kept it up until like maybe I was like 14 or so. And then it just kind of, it almost just like the desire, it kind of like the flame sort of burned out, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a tale as old as time. I feel like really serious like child athletes,
Yeah.
they give it everything until like one day it's just no more. Was there a transition from that into like more sort of like in the gym training, or like how did you find yourself in the gym?
So basically, another friend from this tennis club, he was interested in like just bulking up, and you know, I was kind of like, oh yeah, I am actually pretty skinny. Like I have a sort of like just almost like a like out of shape badminton player like
Out of shape
physique. Yeah, because I hadn't played in a few years, so that's
Okay.
that was the reality. It wasn't.
What's like the typical like build for somebody who's like playing competitively?
Think of like a tennis player, right? So like a tennis player, they're definitely not like smaller people or anything like that, but just a little bit leaner and more nimble and agile. Yeah, so they've got quicker change of direction, more explosive, more plyometric ability on the lighter side, and basically more fast twitch kind of muscle fibers, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a lot of carryover. You could definitely play both.
So, I mean, when you first started training yourself, what was the goal back then?
The goal back then was to like be the best in my like province. So there's like 4 provinces in Ireland, and there's like a provincial team and stuff. And it was to get to that level, and basically, like honestly, I really wanted to like turn pro, you know. But it was just like Ireland's such a small country. There's so few people doing that, and it was the bigger cities like Dublin, Belfast is where people were doing that. So, you know, it was a difficult environment, and plus, I just don't think I was the player with the right kind of mindset or ability to go pro.
That's hard when you're that young, though. It's like who really? There's so few kids that are ready to do something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from badminton, how do you get from there to training for strength?
So I'm about 17, and I can remember vividly just going into like a supplement shop, and you're getting the supplements, and yeah, it's funny. It's kind of now it's kind of backwards, right? Before I'd even done any training, I was getting supplements, you know. It's like, what's the logic in that? But I guess I was just swayed by this friend who was like, you know, this is what's required. So not knowing what I was doing, I was getting protein, which, you know, in hindsight actually
Not a
is
bad
not a
idea.
bad
Yeah.
thing at all.
Yeah.
No. And I can clearly remember, you know, okay, then I need more stuff. And I was trying to get the fat burners, and the guy in the supplement shop was actually like cautioning me, being like, he's like, bro, he's like, you can do a hell of a lot of other things before taking a fat
That's
burner.
reassuring. Yeah. I
Yeah.
feel like you don't find many of those guys.
Yeah. And he, as far as I know, he did very well in the fitness industry. So I think it carries through that was his
Good for him.
character. Yeah.
Yeah. Good for him.
Yeah.
I remember the opposite for me. Like when I was in high school, there was a shop right next door to the gym the first commercial gym I went to. The guy there, he was the kind of guy selling like, you know, pro hormones, which if you don't know, pro hormones are like designer steroids that were not effective enough as injectables. So they just sell them as pills over the counter. He was recommending these things to kids as young as like 13, 14. And I'm sure he made great money, but terribly irresponsible. And that's like unfortunately common, I guess. For the people who are listening, not watching, tell me like stats, height, weight.
I'm 5'11",
I think you're 6
not
feet tall.
not 6 foot. Contrary to everybody's like, you must be 6 foot, 6'1". I'm like, no, I'm just skinny. And then 175, 177 ish. So
Okay, and then I guess talk me through like recent. Doesn't even have to be like recent, like this year, but like recent PBs, I guess, as far as strength and because it's the two main things you focused on in the recent handful of years. It's strength and essentially marathoning, or I guess distance running, right?
yeah. So I've been lifting, you know, since I was 17, and then running since, you know, 2021, I would say. And you know, it's interesting in lifting. Since I was like 18 or 19, I was lifting with this like powerlifter who was like a national competitive level powerlifter. And basically, I was able to deadlift 405 right from the age of like 18 or 19. He just basically was like, we're going to lift this. You're training with us. That's it. So that's one way to get strong. And yeah, then started off with 405, but basically got up to, I don't know, the mid 500s at some point, you know, working with you, and then squatted in the mid 300s and benched 225 at a push, always weaker on bench. And, you know, then I've done a host of races and did the LA Marathon last year in like 3:18 and a half in 89 minutes. So yeah, some general stats there.
What about that recent 10K? What was that?
10K in like 39:10. So got
And
under
then
40.
Just for the people listening, watching, Ross told me he's gonna run a 5K tomorrow at 85%, probably around 19 minutes.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm facing my girlfriend and whatever. I just know a lot of people who are a lot faster. So it's a blessing and a curse to be inspired by people who are faster and stronger.
No, that's great. That's always good, right?
Yeah.
Aim upward. It's funny for me hearing that, right? Just 85%, 19-minute 5K. What would you say then currently is your aim within the realm of fitness?
Currently, it is to get sub 3 in the marathon. That's kind of like the longer term goal. I think it's like a kind of a 3-year project. And, you know, I think that'll require getting a little bit lighter in the short term, which, you know, is definitely a shorter term goal, you know, like max, like kind of 5 years. But I think long term, it would be really nice to do a powerlifting meet. I think just even for like general health,
love that,
I think
yeah.
it's gonna, I think it's gonna be like a really effective retirement plan as a goal, because, you know, the one great thing about preparing for a powerlifting meet is, PRs aside, like the experience of going through a really intense lifting phase is you get super strong, you know, build a ton of muscle and build up that bone density. So yeah, I'm committed to doing a powerlifting meet before I die, but I have to get sub 3 first.
Full power or deadlift only? What are you thinking?
Full
Gotta
go full. Yeah,
I agree. I feel like if you're gonna train for it, you might as well, right?
I don't know anybody who's done deadlift only. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but just for me.
Pat does push pull, or she did. She's gonna change it. You know, she's gonna change that in July. She's going full power.
Yeah,
that's the hope, anyway.
Yeah, she will. But even then, she's doing push pull. She's not doing deadlift only.
I've known a few people. I guess I've been around that a lot more, but I've known a few people going deadlift only. But yeah, no, I think that'd be great. But okay, so that's an interesting thing, and it's exceedingly uncommon. Why would you combine those two things? So distance running, strength, like powerlifting specific strength. Why combine those two?
I think they complement each other in a long term, like big picture way. So to get strong, mass moves mass. So a bigger person will be able to move more weight in general. You'll probably disagree, but that helps with the bone density, muscle mass side of aging, which, like for risk of sarcopenia, that's something that prevents against that. Then on the other end of the spectrum, cardio, it helps to be lighter, which the risk with a lot of pro runners that I hear about, and obviously I'm not a pro runner, so I don't know firsthand, but is like stress fractures and having brittle bones, especially amongst women. So it's kind of like, even though they're at both opposite ends of the spectrum, powerlifting and running, they like intersect, like they complement each other.
It's almost like you pursue both. You ensure that you're healthy as one can be.
Yeah, it's kind of like
both of those extremes.
If you had a pyramid and like one corner down here would be powerlifting, strength focused, the other one would be endurance focused. At the center point, you will have the healthiest version of you, if you can take a long enough, bigger picture view of it.
We'd like to believe so, anyway.
No, I know that. I'm very sure of my own beliefs, which is probably a big issue, which is why I burned out last year. But it's like, if you can take a step back enough and temper your expectations, I think the healthiest version of a lot of people would be at that.
I mean, honestly, like professionally, I kind of agree with that. I think that I was having this conversation with my cousin actually last night, and he was saying, like, he trains mostly for powerlifting. He's asking me, like, if it makes sense for him to do like cardio. And I asked him, like, what for? Like, is it because you think you're gonna get stronger from it? He's like, yeah. I was like, no, then don't do cardio, because like it's gonna have the opposite effect. Like, it'll only make you less effective at that specific modality of training. But then the other question is, like, if you care about your very long-term health and being balanced anyway, pursuing both, perhaps not either extreme, I guess, but like more like a middle of the road path makes more sense. The way you and I are going about this is probably so extreme on either end that it's like not as optimized for health as it could be. But I understand also part of it, the pursuit is just it's more fun chasing achievement, right? But for you, like, a big chunk of that motivation really is just you'd like to be as healthy as possible for as long as possible, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think like health and pursuing performance for me like go hand in hand,
Yeah.
So I could do a lot of things to be healthier that would come at the detriment of performance,
Well, I mean, do you think that that's generally true? Like, that health and performance do go hand in hand?
Like, having said that out loud now, I would say, like, it's not that black and white. But, I guess just in sort of like my own experience, it's been hard to find that meeting of the two of health and performance, I mean, on a long-term basis, I would say.
Where my head goes though with that question is, like, a lot of people have asked me, not a lot, like a handful of people have asked me about if I would consider doing an ultra, and like a short ultra maybe, right? But I'm not going to train for 100 miles or 200 miles. I actually think that would make me less healthy. Like, that pursuit and that sort of training compared to like training for like a marathon distance, that's a reasonable, it's not a short distance, but it's a reasonable enough distance where I don't think I'm like harming myself in that pursuit. And the same thing with like powerlifting. There's a point where if I wanted to be as strong as was physically possible, I do think there's a point where like my risk of injury or re-injury is just, it's higher than I would like it to be. So like, I do say, like, I train for strength and for endurance and so on, but like it is an extreme, but only to a certain extreme, I guess. But yeah, I think maybe balancing, because if it weren't fun, like if you weren't chasing achievement and you weren't enjoying it, you probably wouldn't train as effectively anyway, right? So there's a balance there, maybe.
Absolutely, yeah. It makes me question, like, where does performance kind of begin, or where does health end? Because I think they're not like...
There's definitely some overlap, yeah.
There's overlap, but also it's like, if you're training for a marathon, there's nothing... I don't think there's a world where you're getting a health benefit from a marathon or a powerlifting meet. I think that both of those
like the event itself.
Yeah, I think
Agreed.
Both of those, unless it was like, a 5-hour marathon something like that, or you were kind of going for just the kind of like ACSM recommendations for strength, like the science-based that we know for certain, evidence, approved kind of metrics. I think if you're going for those, that's one thing. But then once you go above those, it's a very like murky territory, and you can kind of see it in how like people will sacrifice sleep to do a marathon or a meet, or the injuries they'll encounter. So yeah, I'd wonder, actually for you, what do you think about in terms of a powerlifting meet and a marathon? Do you think there's anything healthy about them, or what is healthy about them?
I think for a lot of people, they don't need, but they do better having the kind of like the looming um, deadline, if you will, to keep their training consistently motivated. I know Christine, my fiance Christine, Christine, she's the kind of person who, like, if she didn't sign up for a race, she would probably skip out on half of her runs. And she knows this. So she'll sign up for races that she, like, future her may regret, but she'll sign up for races knowing that that keeps her training consistently. And that's really the primary benefit. It's not actually the race itself. There's no achievement she's seeking there, right? So maybe it's that for some people is staying consistently motivated, but I also wonder how much of it is, I think like for you and I, it's more a thing of, it's like celebration of like the amount of work that's gone in to get to a certain point. Because like, as much as I will sound different on a race day, like it's a big deal to me how I do or I don't do. But I also know that like most of what I enjoy about all this is the actual like processes of like getting better, getting stronger, getting faster, getting fitter. The event itself, like there will be more. So if I fall apart at, whatever next race, fine. There's gonna be another chance. Same thing for you, right? Like that's another thing maybe that worth just noting for anybody who's looking to compete. Aside from all of your prep and all of your training, there are so many variables that affect your possibility of success. It's not all of them are up to you. So some of like having like the perfect meet or the perfect race, a lot of that is on you, but some of it's just not. So some of it's like the stars need to align properly to give you that chance. And the other part is like you just show up as well as you can frequently enough that you eventually have that shot, right? Like for you, I told you this earlier today. I think that you've been ready for like a sub-3 marathon, if not very, very close than 3:20 for sure, for a while. It's just that not everything has kind of fallen into place the way that you would have needed it to have that chance yet.
Yeah, like my running coach is very data driven, and like the receipts are just not there. Like that's just how I look at it. There might be like really strong indicators, or receipts that are super close, but like just as you're talking, the like analogy of like a cake comes to mind. It's like you can have ChatGPT, you can have the Whole Foods ingredients, you can have you can ask 10 friends how to make the cake, and you'll go and you'll fuck it up.
Yeah, fair.
So like there's a certain element of like the luck that you talked about, and also just iterations. It's like you got to learn what not to do. Like for example, the last marathon I did, I got a good kind of like reality check on like if I'm not actually going all in and committing to a certain goal, there's just no chance of me actually getting there. Like I have to like turn over every stone and like really commit, because there's so many things you can do to put yourself in a position to reach a goal.
Yeah.
That if you're not taking all of them, then how can you say confidently you're going to get there? So I know a lot of people will be like, oh, such and such can get to a goal, but there's just so much to put into a goal that you have to really stick with it over the long term and really apply yourself.
And especially a goal so long. Like I know social media will have you believe otherwise, but a sub-3 marathon is like, there's not that many people. It's a very small handful of people who are capable of that. So like the amount of optimization that goes into such a goal or the accomplishment is everything, right? I remember the night before when we were eating at Olive Garden, I did question in my head what you ordered, but I didn't think it was my place to tell you. Otherwise, I didn't want to get in your head about it,
Well, now you know it is your place.
I think you had ordered whatever it was. It was something that I knew to be like extremely high fat, and I was wondering in my head, okay, is that the right? But I thought maybe that was part of your strategy. Like you knew something.
That's literally what I'm saying. It's like it was a reality check of like little things like that, where it's like, oh, I'll just I'll just do this, I'll do that, it's fine. And it's like you're leaving a lot to chance, basically, you know.
Yeah.
I'm leaving a lot to chance.
Yeah. I mean, so most specifically, then, if you had to, do you think you can distill your goals down to like quantifiable objectives? Like sub three is one that stands out for sure. What about in the realm of strength? Like, is there a numbers in your head that you're reaching for?
You know, like a 500 deadlift again. Like
Mhm.
I've done it before. It would be nice. And
Well, but the difference now, to be clear, is that you want to be capable of that while also capable of the sort of endurance performance, right? Yeah, that's the tricky thing. Because it'd be different if you're like, okay, I'm going to give up on running for like a few months and then train for this 500 deadlift. That's easy. Well, it's not easy, but we could do that very certainly. Like that's a very smooth, straightforward path. This path for you doing both in the same, whatever window of time, that's way trickier.
that, yeah, and that's kind of like back to the point of like, I guess, like sort of the triangle. It's like
Mhm.
the time frame you do it in, you know. So like I would never set a strength goal and like a distance, like a marathon and maybe even a half marathon goal in the same calendar year. Now that I've had the experiences I've had, like, and that's not a recommendation for other people, it's just personally knowing myself and how difficult both goals are.
Yeah.
They, like I said, they do complement each other, but it's like it's more over the like the longer term. So like, you know, my strength goals of like if I want to get that 500 deadlift again, and if I want to bench, you know, more than, you know, 225,
Mhm.
and, you know, one day touch wood squat, you know, 405, like running can, and, you know, God willing, will be a part of the build, but like it's not going to be a goal as part of the build to run a certain, you know, PR
Yeah.
based on the experiences I've had, you know.
I I know the answer to this question, but I'm gonna have you anyway explain what does your current approach to training, I guess, and diet look like at the moment?
Well, I should really ask you.
It'd be funny if we both said, "Oh, I don't know."
Yeah, so I'm back working with Tyler, and he's coaching me. But, you know, my approach to strength training is basically to,
Well, maybe do it this way. Talk me through like the weekly tempo. Like, what does a week of training look like for us?
so a week of training looks like I'm now running 6 days. So I take Fridays off, and I do like a Wednesday track session, and then a Saturday like longer, kind of like his own three type session, and then I'll do one full strength session like we just did before the podcast today, deadlift focused, and then I'll do two other sort of more isolation bodybuilding focused workouts. So I guess that's like roughly 9 sessions, but like they're not 9 equal
Yeah,
like sessions in a week.
very specific purposes for each.
Totally. Like I would
Yeah.
say of the 9, 3 are intense and 6 are uh, another 3 are kind of moderate to low intensity, and then 3 are definitely lower intensity. So it's definitely as part of a plan, and it's like very intentional.
So to the listener or viewer who's hearing you say this and thinking to themselves like, "Wow, that is ridiculous to train 9 times in a week." Do you think that somebody else could pursue a similar goal set with less training? Could they effectively do so with less training?
Absolutely, yeah. So, for example, if you take the person who's like not training at all right now, and they're just
Mhm.
listening to this for the first time, like if they do one strength session and 2 runs a week, they would make massive progress, especially over the course of like 6 months to a year. You
Yeah.
know, I would be fully convinced, and I've seen it happen as well.
Yeah. Yeah. What about your approach to nutrition? What is that like?
So, my approach to nutrition is very much like getting out of my own way, because I have this mentality of I've got this, and basically just being like consistent and as diligent with my nutrition as I am with my exercise, you know?
Yeah.
So they fit so well together. But for me, it's like exercise is like, you know, it's almost like obviously performance, but like a mental health activity,
Mhm.
I would say.
Certainly.
And nutrition is very much so as well, you know, like, so for me, it's like not putting much pressure on it and not making a big deal out of it, but it's also just tracking most days. So basically, you know, just using like ChatGPT and taking a picture or noting down what I'm doing, and keeping my macros in mind and having a range, and, you know, keeping it super simple basically, because it's very easy to overcomplicate.
Something worth contextualizing though for the people is that you have decently long history actually of tracking extremely precisely. You also actually have a history of there's points in time when we were working together you really struggled with consistency despite tracking, right? So
Yeah, for
you've
sure.
seen like kind of both ends there,
Yeah.
where it's like extreme precision and extreme efficacy,
Yeah.
but also extreme, I guess, imprecision or inconsistency that led to the opposite, obviously. I think for you, when we talk about it, that kind of strikes me as one thing. Maybe I'm holding on to that from like past experience with you, but I wonder if it's true that you're trying to find an approach that is as effortless as possible while still being effective to avoid either of those extremes again.
Yeah, like the extremes, like not tracking, eating what I want, and just feeling kind of bloated and sort of just like totally out of the loop of any performance related
Mhm.
approach, versus the other extreme would be like tracking everything, you know, having it affect like my social life, and
Yeah.
and having it become a stressor, you know.
Yeah.
So they're actually both. So not caring about my nutrition becomes a stressor because it's like, you know, it actually inhibits performance.
Right.
And then focusing on nutrition too much inhibits my quality of life or my enjoyment of life. And, you know, my performance is improved, but it's like I'm not a professional athlete, so it's not worth it.
Yeah, I think one of our goals right now, or one of my goals for you within nutrition, is finding a narrower path of consistency. Because I think that if you, at least where you're currently at, if you were to wax and wane between extremes, it starts to feel like the extreme is actually what's effective. So, say if you have like a day or two out of a week where you eat terribly, like huge surplus, and it's all just bullshit, like super high fat, moderate high carbs, no protein, and then as a result, you kick yourself in the ass and you track to the gram on a few other days and you nail it. And the overall end result is like, okay, I'm in decent shape, steering body comp well enough. You may start to think that that extraordinary effort on those 4 days a week is what's required, but it's not. That's only the case because of the opposite extreme, right? So if instead we can find ourselves nearer to the middle that's comfortable for you, just stay there more consistently. I think that's kind of where we're gonna find your sweet spot for now. The exception may, of course, be like nearer to actual like events, like a race, where we want to really dial that in and make sure that we're optimizing for like peak performance on a day, not necessarily just in general.
That's exactly where my mind was going, is like if I could find like a 7 or 8 out of 10 effort, 8 might even be too much.
I
Like,
think so. Yeah.
yeah, across like a full year, but also having the ability to go and put in like that 9 or, you know, 10 out of 10 effort around a
For
race
like a
time
week, yeah, you
for,
could do
yeah,
that.
just, or even for 4 days, like
Mhm.
in the lead up to a key race, because I've been 6 out of 10 for the whole year. Going up to 8 or 9 is actually, you know, it feels natural almost. That would be like a great place to be at. And, you know, I definitely feel like it's realistic.
Something worth mentioning here too, for the viewers' benefit, is that part of the reason that for you it's very appropriate to hang out near that like 7 effort, maybe even less a lot of times, is because two things. One, you have the experience of being extremely precise and effective. So what to you seems like, X amount of effort is actually probably that scale has shifted essentially due to that period of experience. The other thing is that your metabolism is quite fast. Like your maintenance right now, maybe I would estimate it near 4,000 calories. Some days certainly over. I think that for you, having a metabolism that is so strong as is a huge benefit because say you miss by 10%, 10% for you is, it's like 400 calories. For somebody else, 400 calories might be like 20%, 25% of their day, right? So I think you definitely benefit from having done the work to build that up, but also sheer output in a normal week is just extremely high.
Yeah, I think like, you know, I'm able to take it easier now because I've kind of in some ways gone too far and done, you know, a little bit too much. So I know, you know, okay, if I fly too close to the sun, you know, it comes at a huge cost that I don't need, and it's not sustainable. So I know, okay, here's my limit, and I have an idea of what's sustainable, what consistency looks like for me, basically. And
Yeah.
that came through a lot of trial and error, which kind of ties into the marathon as well. You know, it's a lot of trial and error.
Well, I mean, what do you think? Your approach at this point is pretty refined. There's still plenty of room to hopefully improve there, but what to this point
For
do you think
sure.
you've learned uh, that is kind of unique to combining modalities? As
So
opposed to like when you just train for strength, or if you were just training for endurance.
So what's unique that I've learned combining strength training and endurance training? Yeah, I think that like just for me personally, anyways, they're like essential components of like my kind of exercise routine,
Mhm.
and that they do work well together, and that I can do it, and I don't want to say like uniquely positioned to do it, but like maybe like I have a responsibility to do it, because I think a lot of people are doing like high rocks, or they're doing CrossFit, or it's crazy, like especially in the Bay Area, like
Especially in the Bay Area.
especially in the Bay Area. Maybe it's just a Bay Area thing, but just people will do two modes of exercise.
Yeah.
Like it's just so common. So for me to be able to figure out a way to do it successfully, it's like if anyone's going to do it, it's like it's got to be like a trainer who literally
You're trying to walk the walk, basically.
yeah, it's basically like if your career is fitness and exercise, then if you can't combine the two, then who
interesting.
is? Like it's difficult.
So
but
you're
it's not
almost like trying to
impossible.
find the ceiling, so that as you instruct clients, there's like nothing you're instructing that seems unreasonable if they aim upward in comparison to you.
Yeah, I guess like you're going on a hike and you get a guide. You don't want the guide who's never been to the top of the mountain.
Well, how do you feel about you go to a 24-hour fitness? I'm not calling out 24-hour fitness, but let's say you go to a gym and you just signed on. They're like, hey, free training session.
I just want to say I love 24-hour fitness. It's my favorite gym. If you're looking to hire right now, I'm not available, but maybe we could do it down the line. You did that wasn't me. That was
but you know what I'm gonna say though is like the trainer that you meet with, he's like 30% body fat. What do you think of that?
yeah, because there is a lot of people in the United States, especially, who have 30% body fat,
Fair.
and we're individuals, so some people are going to want the person who's 5%, and some people are going to want the person who's 30%.
The person who's 5% may not be alive.
But it's like,
so you think maybe some people they're seeking relatability when they hire, not necessarily that upward comparison.
Yeah, I think individuals will want what they want, and if someone is 30% body fat, there is a market for them as well. And
that's an interesting thought. I know this is not going to sound nice, but I'm of the belief that it's kind of your responsibility, if that's your job, to do as well as how to in that space. And maybe 30% is too harsh. Maybe say like a 35. But honestly, I think for like most adult men, sub 20 is like very much achievable and very healthy. Probably most healthy. Above that is probably less. And as like having said that, I do believe that if that's your job is to teach people how to do this, it's kind of your responsibility. It will also behoove you. I do think from the business standpoint to be able to walk the walk, because people they will make like the split second judgment upon meeting you or in that first conversation, that first training session. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting thing that happens, I think, in this realm of fitness.
Yeah, I will say that, people will want to work with all different types of trainers.
Yeah.
And it's, the market will decide, basically,
That's a good point.
I'm not gonna gatekeep and say, certain people should be trainers and certain people shouldn't.
Yeah.
Because there's just going to be some people who will not want to work with, the former professional athlete or the elite performer, because they just don't resonate with that. And there needs to be trainers to cater for that. Do they need to be the majority of trainers? Maybe not. But it's not my job. My job is to run my business the best that I can. So I'm not going to try to say otherwise.
Yeah. What do you think, I guess within your own training pursuits of sub 3 and powerlifting strength, what do you think you're currently struggling with the most?
So yeah, we're just talking about business. And I think, trying to run a business, run a run club, trying to run myself and lift myself and, be like do life basically.
Yeah.
And all of the things that are involved because there's only so much time in the day. You've got limited energy. If you're focusing on one thing, it's hard then to also be like, right, I'm 100% all in on this thing and I'm 100% all in on this other thing. And I know we've talked about it before, trying to be the best you can be in all areas.
Yeah.
But I think kind of having concessions, or again, going back to that like long-term approach of like, people tell me all the time, oh, you should be able to do this, you should be able to do that. And it's like, yeah, but like at what kind of time point should I reach said goal? And that's where giving myself a break is the only way I can, find a way through. Otherwise, that extreme approach we talked about with the dieting, being like really focus on the majoring in the minors of the 1 gram of, I'll just go crazy. I'll overdo it. And I have that kind of addictive personality where, if I'm not kept accountable by like coaches and stuff like that, I'll get caught up in the wrong things.
I think a very specific way to say it about you is like if you're not kept reasonable in your ambition. So I think that you're right to assume that like you're very capable across the board. Whatever you wanted to pursue, you could. I've seen you do well in so many things, but I think the thing that's tricky for you is being okay with the fact that like you will have to occasionally specialize in order to build up, one thing at a time. That doesn't mean everything else should progress necessarily. You can keep all in the same standard as you build this one thing, but I think being able to focus and consolidate focus temporarily is really important. But yeah, it's worth noting though, and I do want to tell you that I am like so excited and so proud of you for seeing like how well your business is doing recently, because like people don't know like how many sessions do you think you do in a week?
I would say I'm averaging like, kind of around 35 a week right now, I'd say.
That's a lot. That's so many sessions.
Yeah. It's not something I just did from day one as well either. It's kind of almost like running. You're building up your training volume.
Yeah. Build that
and it's not
pace.
like, forever either. I don't think it's like sustainable as a full career, but
the fact though that you have the demand that you can actually do that is very reassuring. It's something that you should be proud of as well. Cause like I think many trainers, their problem is going to be the opposite. It's like, how do I get to a point where people even want to hire me? Like enough people want to hire me that I can book 35 sessions, 30 even, right? But yeah, man, good for you. That's it says a lot about how good you are at the job, but also I think about how good you are with people.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate the kind words, and I don't, see the progress in myself, but to hear it from you, and we work together, obviously. So that's it means a lot. And just something that comes to mind is like you walk into a gym and you see so many people working out, and then in the personal training industry, you see so many people working with trainers. In any one personal training gym, you might see 5, 10, even 15 trainers. So it's like the demand is there. It's possible. It's just trying to figure out, what do people want? What am I good at? And how can I kind of intersect the two as a business over the long term?
That's a great point. Like that Venn diagram matters so much. Cause like if you look at the market and you think like, wow, there's a huge market here, but it's also a huge gap between where you are and building the sort of capability that would earn you that part of the market. That may not be the place to focus, even if the market's huge, right? Let's say I know you coach a variety of different kinds of people, but say that you had a client or prospective client who came to you essentially with the same goal set as you, extremely lofty ambitions for marathoning as well as strength. How would you advise them getting into this?
Yeah, my first question would be kind of like, what are your expectations and what's your timeline? So I think if someone has like a really hard timeline that is like kind of within 3 months, and they don't have a strong kind of foundation built, obviously that's like one of the more difficult starting points.
Yeah.
But if someone's got like a pretty kind of like reasonable set of expectations where they're like, this goal is difficult, it's going to take time, and they're committed to the long term, with any goal, if you're committed to the long term, you're almost guaranteed to succeed. So I think I would just want to know, expectations and timeline, and then we kind of get the ball rolling from there.
How often is that a kind of a obstacle for you, that people have expectations that you think are outlandish?
An overwhelming amount of the time,
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what's the quote? It's like, we underestimate what we can achieve in the long term and overestimate what we can achieve in the short term. I think that is an affliction for a lot of people, especially myself. And, I experienced it last year. I literally tried to do a marathon and a meet in July of last year,
Oh yeah, that's right.
ended up doing neither, and just,
Yeah.
burned out, and was like, in a kind of like a deficit of kind of energy for about 6 weeks. So,
When I think I had texted you a couple times like leading up, just to kind of check in and see how you were doing. And I think I know you just well enough where I could kind of tell. I knew the answers to the question I was asking a little bit. Like I suspected maybe you just got to a point where it was a bit too much all at once. I mean, I still had hopes that you were going to tell me otherwise. Everything was going great, but that's one of those things where, like, yeah, I do believe that's a goal that's within reach for you at some point if you wanted to. It's just like you said, for that prospective client, the most common misunderstanding is going to be like, how much time do I need to prepare myself properly for that? And I mean, as you found out, it's more. Almost always the answer is more, right? Do you think there are any things that you have changed that you wish you would have changed sooner as far as your approach to this? Especially like the multimodal approach where you're pursuing both. Like, are there any things you've done wrong that you would steer people away from?
yeah, it's funny. It's like, I hate to like quote Steve Jobs in the Bay Area. It's like so like overdone, but like, I think he said something along the lines of, and I don't even know if it's his quote, but he said like, you can only connect the dots looking back, not looking forward.
Yeah.
So like, did I make a mistake of trying to do a marathon and a meet? And it's like, well, if I had known that in advance, I wouldn't have gone for it.
Fair point. Yeah.
Yeah. And like a lot of people were like, oh, it's difficult, it's this, that, and the other. But it's like, I'm still convinced I could have done it. I just tried to do them at too high a level,
Yes. Yeah.
That's where.
That's a difficult thing for you though, is that I think you and people like you're not running a race to collect the medal. Like that's almost, you could care less.
That's a goal for, some point in running is to, yeah, maybe to pace other people. That's the move, because then it's much more of a responsibility.
Yeah. But I guess the point is just that, like, for you, you're not just trying to show up and like go through the motions. You're trying to like show up and like at a meet, maybe you want a place. You don't just want to show up and just be part of the thing. And that's very different than the person who's like, I'm going to compete in these two things. Right. That's a very different goal.
I think, yeah, a lot of people can resonate with that, because they'll either do one of the two. They'll people can kind of be extreme, and they'll be like, I'm either just going to show up and just like, I heard a story of someone's partner who was like committed to doing a 10K. The morning of is like, F this, I'm not going to do it. And then actually decides, switches their mindset and says, I'm going to do it. So basically not particularly committed and very, blasé about it. And then there's the other person, I guess more like me, where it's like, you just do it too intensely, and like you kind of blow up. You go out too fast, and it's like the receipts, the training history isn't there, but you just have this kind of like force of will where you're like, well, I've forced it before and I've been able to do, difficult things.
Yeah.
So it's trying to find that middle way where it's not, your last race ever. It's also not your first. It's like a stepping stone, and it's an important stepping stone. And progress is progress, even if it's like 1%.
Yeah. I'm racing my first 10K next week. What advice do you have for me?
So I think like a 10K, you can easily kind of overlook it and say like 10K is not a half marathon. It's not a marathon. So it's easy, and, it's going to be, not a challenge.
But I'm very worried about the opposite. I think it's going to be so painful.
Yeah. So that's kind of to my point, is that like, any race is challenging. A race is a race. And I think it's kind of like having a plan in place and knowing yourself, knowing your own limitations. So like, just as a general kind of guideline for anybody, like without knowing people, and having worked with them for many months, I would just say like, look at a 10K, like you're setting yourself up for the last 2 miles. So basically the goal is to get to mile 4 feeling like you're at kind of like a 70% intensity point, somewhere around there. If you're at 60%, that's fine. If you're at 80%, that's fine, because the last two, you'll be just kind of going all out,
Yeah.
If you get to mile 3 and you feel like you're going anywhere near too fast, it's like definitely the mile to like pull it back and to conserve for those last two, because it's still very strategic, even though it's only
Yeah.
6 miles.
Are you saying that in terms of like perceived effort or in terms of like actual pacing?
I think perceived effort is definitely more important,
Yeah.
because like we said about training, it's kind of like you're getting to kind of express all the hard work you've put in.
Mm.
So we don't really know what that's going to be, to be honest, and that's actually an issue of like having a fixed goal like a sub 3. It's like you'll get to that point when you get there. So basically, yeah, I would say like getting to mile 4 feeling like it's a 7 out of 10 effort, and then having that 8, 9, and 10 for those last two would be ideal. But yeah, I'd ask like what are you afraid of happening that is kind of holding you back a little bit?
I guess just like the unknown, because like I've raced a 5K. Honestly, I don't think that for me was like a great effort, just because I didn't train for it. I just like showed up. I was there because two people I was close to were there. I just threw on the faster shoes and gave it what I had that day. So there was no expectation. But having run as much as I have even the past couple of months since then, it's like I have an idea, I think a pretty decent idea as to how fast I can be in this distance. I guess my worry is that I would disappoint myself by screwing it up. Um, and the only way I could really imagine screwing that up is like if I'm not fast enough to run a certain time, I'm just not. That's fine. But it's like if I screw it up by, I don't know, screwing up my pacing, or if my technique is falling apart early, that would bother me, right? But I haven't done that distance yet. So, and that's another thing that's maybe tricky in my head, is that I think technical integrity, like for running, seems to me way more important on those faster, shorter distances. But like, I almost feel like a marathon distance or even a half marathon and longer, it's almost a bit like deadlifting for volume, because you get to a point where you can kind of still muscle, right? You can just grit your teeth, get it done, find a way. I feel like for the shorter distances, if you're running inefficiently, you're just kind of screwed.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would almost say the opposite, because like let's just say, for
That
example,
might be. It's dawning on me now. I might believe that because I'm slower though. I'm comparatively slower than like you are much faster than me. So for you, like you are nearer to like the razor's edge. I'm not there right now for like the longer distances. So it might feel that way to me and not to you.
you're much stronger than me, so we can go back and forth. But like, let's just say you have a issue with your technique in the marathon. It's going to get expressed a hell of a lot more, maybe at a lower intensity, but it's going to get expressed a hell of a lot more. So
Yeah, true.
yeah, it's kind of hard to say. It's very like individual
So
specific.
just don't suck in general is the takeaway.
So like obviously I'm not like a high school or like a college like runner. I don't have that level of experience, but I would say that like a race is a race.
Mhm.
And like just on my own experience and the reading I've done, I would say like for any race, the best feeling is to finish fast, to like negative split.
Fair, yeah.
Yeah. And there'll be a lot of people who will say like, oh, on this course, or I am different and I can negative split. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm still like, positive splitting feels better because psychologically you're going faster, to finish, when physiologically you'll slow down if all things are equal,
Yeah.
So if you can plan accordingly and set your race up where you negative split in any race,
Yeah.
have a kick, basically, the sit and kick track philosophy. I think it also applies obviously just over like a bigger scale in a 10K, half, or marathon. So yeah, if you have a rough idea, I love Strava for this reason, because it has all of the times there. Even that can be a blessing and a curse, because you'll look at other people's times and you'll think I should be at whatever time. But basically it's a really useful, like we're so blessed we have like AI where we can say, right, Strava says this is my PB, and then I have a race coming up.
Yeah.
What's a rough guide,
Oh, you're saying the predictions in Strava.
Yeah, like having a race plan with the view to negative splitting, it should kind of ease any anxiety or fear you have, because at least you have a rough idea of what an ideal race could look like. Were you able to stick to that plan?
Fair. Yeah. One of my favorite things to do recently, for my own sake, but also just in case anybody's like really staring at my Strava, I include
a lot of people are staring at your Strava.
No, they're not. You and like Matt are the only two people probably looking at that at all. But I include probably like a total of 25 minutes walking in every run that I'm logging, so that for my sake, whatever predictions I see on there are wrong by a lot. And then also, if anybody's like really, I don't even know if my pace is public, but if my pace is public, it looks like I'm moving quite slowly. So nobody's gonna look at me like, oh, like you should be able to do this, because there's no way you could know.
So you're concerned about comparing and judgment and all that kind of stuff. So you're building in a slower pace,
perhaps,
to your runs.
I was gonna say, like, leading into CIM, it really did actually get to me on Garmin. I trust Garmin data, by the way, more than Strava, very slightly. But their race predictions had me.
They're both wrong, by the way. For
sure, absolutely. They had me pegged at like 350 for a marathon. And I was thinking the entire time, that's fucking bullshit. Like I promise I'm faster than that. I know I am. But it did bug me. I was like, what if it's right? Or what if it's right and I actually am that slow? I give it everything. I'm 350.
My value of
I'm a terrible person then.
Yeah.
Gosh. Well, Ross, I think that, or I hope anyway, for the people listening, it's enlightening for them to kind of hear from somebody else who is. It's interesting to me when I think about your training and mine alongside, because I feel like we're approaching similar goals from opposite ends. Like you're already quite fast and strong.
It depends who you ask.
It's always going to be true. I am not fast, but I like to think I'm quite strong. I think what's going to end up happening here is we're going to meet in the middle somewhere where. Actually, I don't know. I don't think
we'll both be in a nursing home in wheelchairs. Being like,
that's the middle.
We tried. We gave it a good go. There's some cool pictures.
We'll record another podcast from the nursing home where we tell people just don't do what we did.
We'll be without hips and knees, but we'll be like, look, that medal on the wall there, that's worth it.
Yes.
Ronnie Coleman style.
The collection of medals that you could have gotten running like a full 2 hours slower. Yeah. But I appreciate you joining me on the podcast. We'll see you again very shortly in 7 seconds for the next episode.